back. This is Boomer Life on CL 650.
Welcome back to the program. I'm Sterling Fox, joined in studio by Philippe Souvestre, the president and founder of Neurokinetics, a clinic in Vancouver, and clinic manager Sonia Dale is also on the program today. We've had a very moving conversation with a former patient of yours, Dr. Philippe. Dorothy joined us for a few minutes and discussed her situation, which was quite moving, actually. A woman who'd suffered for quite a long time from depression. But just before I'm going to get you to ask how, tell us how you got Dorothy to feeling so much better about her life and herself and all of that. But I wanted, first of all, to talk, as we did at the beginning of the program. We mentioned we're going to talk about depression and anxiety. A little homework here produced the following bit of definition stuff. Depression, rather. A state of low mood and aversion to activity that can affect a person's thoughts, behavior, feelings, and sense of well-being. When you have depression, it's more than feeling sad. Intense feelings of sadness and other symptoms like losing interest in things you enjoy may last for a while. Depression is a medical illness, not a sign of weakness, and it's treatable. This is a definition fairly commonly available to anyone with a Google machine. Do you agree with the definition, Dr. Philippe?
I agree with part of it, not all of it.
Okay. Where do you take issue?
In the light of my experience and what I have been learning through my career, I am convinced that depression shouldn't be considered as a medical illness.
Oh, it's not a medical illness?
Which
is it a psychological disorder then? Is that how you would categorize it?
It is a cognitive depression.
Okay.
In a sense, the processings that underlie mental activities, emotional state, are not working well.
Okay.
And it ties with a lot of physiological support mechanisms. It is mostly physiological. It is not as psychological as one would think.
Interesting, because now when Dorothy was describing her circumstances to us a few minutes ago, she talked about having gone to other medical practitioners and was given antidepressant prescriptions and not much else by way of not particularly a lot of attention even paid to her story or her symptoms. She came to you after learning about you. This is a person who's been depressed for a long time and was describing her typical day. I sleep for 12 hours and I sit in a chair for the other 12. That's my life, and had been going on for quite a while. Not exactly a sizzling kind of life, right? So she finally hears, after exhausting all her other avenues of inquiry, she hears about neurokinetics and decides, I'll give those people a chance. But it takes her 6 weeks to even coordinate the phone call, making the physical effort to call Sonia and eventually to come out and see you and your colleagues at Neurokinetics. So that's pretty severe depression. 6 weeks to even pick up a phone, to make a phone call to your own benefit. That's pretty depressing, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
So now is that person's mental health at risk when you get to that point? Is that why we have this stigma associated with depression?
Yeah, I think you nailed the point very well.
Okay. So when this is the part of the story I am so looking forward to. Sonia and Philippe, collaborate. Please help me. What did you do that made that woman that we spoke to turn her life around from an introvert who slept 12 hours a day and sat in a chair looking at the wall for the other 12 to the kind of extroverted, back in the game kind of happy person that she is now? How did you do it?
Well, as a Western medical doctor, I would have been unable to help her, being only a Western medical doctor. As an Eastern medical doctor, being only an Eastern medical doctor, I would have been unable to understand and help her. As a neurophysiologist alone, I would have been unable to understand her enough to be able to help her. It took those 3 disciplines put together to become able to help her.
And that's what you bring to the table with every patient, the ability to apply neurophysiology, Eastern and Western medicine in each individual condition.
That is correct.
Okay, so when she came to you, she talked immediately about how within 2 weeks you were able to source the traumatic events in her life that had caused the whole process of depression. That's remarkable, Philippe. How do you do that?
Well, actually, it took only 3 days to source it because it takes 3 steps of assessment to get the data we require to design the treatment program.
Oh, okay,
which
so this
lasts
is
12 weeks.
This is the 3-step, Sonia, that you've
Yes.
talked to us about in the past. There's that phone call.
Yes.
And you and your colleagues take the call, and after the phone call, there's a series of 3 assessments,
Yes,
right?
the triage assessments.
The first one is the brain optimization consultation.
Yes.
And then there are 2 more beyond that. And
Yes.
during those assessments, Philippe, you were able, just by conversation and technique, to identify Dorothy's issues?
Yes, interview and testing, basically, which means investigating her history, trauma history. I am a traumatologist.
Yes.
Medical history, of course, and lifestyle history are necessary to understand what has been going on, and also reversing the current state of symptoms, disabilities, issues, and emotional fears that always go along with this. It is a very complex situation.
Dorothy told us, and she really piqued my curiosity here too. She said, "Well, you know, Dr. Philippe starts his assessments with the balance test." I said, "Okay." And then she described what happened to her in her balance test, and she discovered her sense of balance was just way off. So tell us about the balance test and how important that is.
Well, balance test is a part of the investigation. It is only a small part, actually, but it seems to have made a strong impression on Dorothy.
Yes, it certainly did.
And actually, very impressive when you see a patient nearly going to fall during a test, which is only requires from you to stand, both feet side to side and closing your eyes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very it makes an impression.
So a person who suffers from severe depression is likely literally to be unbalanced, and I mean that not in a mental sense, but in the inner ear physical sense.
Physical sense, certainly. Yes.
And so the lack of physical ability to balance oneself is simply a reflection of what's going on in your head?
Yes.
Wow. I didn't realize it was. Is it that obvious?
It is.
So,
it is not new, actually. That has been understood after the Second World War, actually. So it's a long time now, before even I was born, that the concept was understood.
right. Can I just because you just opened a door and you're a former military man yourself, flight surgeon in the French Air Force, here in Canada we see our soldiers and military personnel returning from abroad from some pretty nasty places of deployment where we send them in our name, and then we seem to, well, give them a bit of a hard time when we find out they have depression and post-traumatic stress disorder. Is that a form of depression, Philippe?
It is.
Okay.
Absolutely, yes.
And when you have, and you don't, it's not restricted by any means to members of the military. Our firefighters and first responders, paramedics, police officers, people who encounter traumatic events on a daily basis are prone to this condition, are they not?
Yes.
And how is it best treated? This is something that I think the government of Canada could probably take a lesson or 2 on. We seem to be pretty bad at it. What would you do to a person who comes to you suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder?
You are very judgmental. Nobody is bad here. But it is. I
regret the treatment that some of our military people have not received. That's where I'm being a little judgmental. That's all.
And I was teasing you a little bit here. But I understand the complexity of this, and it is a matter of a school of thinking.
Right.
I come from a background and a country, France in particular, where the mindset and the vision of medicine is extremely different compared to the Canadian way of envisioning medicine.
Okay.
So it is. So it is. I was born in France. I didn't ask for that. I didn't choose it. So we are, we are born wherever we are born. But the good thing is, I am a traveler. I am a citizen of this low world rather than a citizen of a country. I am a proud Canadian citizen. Don't misunderstand me here, please. But this said, I belong to this planet, and I am trying to see and identify the best everywhere I can see it,
Right.
and put this together. So it is. I have seen that sometimes mindsets and way of thinking, ways of approaching a particular complex issue could make a difference. There are good angles of approach, there are poor angles of approach.
Right.
Not to say bad angles of approach.
Right.
So it ties with this.
But one thing that Dorothy said, Sonia, and I think it's really important, is that, every person is different.
Yes.
There's not a one-size-fits-all approach to any of these issues ever, is there?
Yes. Yeah, and this is why I agree with her as well. And this is going back to the explaining the sessions, the three triage of assessments.
Right.
The reason why we do them, as opposed to having a base or a flat rate of this is how we treat concussions, this is how we treat depression. Everybody's different. Everybody has their own individual results. This is where we take the measurable data from all the triage assessments, take them, make their own customized treatment program. So this is why we are a little bit different in how we treat different conditions in our clinic.
And the big difference, of course, is that Neurokinetics, above all, offers hope to people who just need help. There is help, and there's a lot of hope out there as well.
I would disagree with you. We don't sell hope. We build it.
All right. All right. That I can handle that sort of flack from the sidelines. No problem at all. We're back with lots more. We're talking Neurokinetics Clinic. And by the way, you can find them in the Highcroft Medical Center building. And that's right there on 3195 Granville Street on the way up the hill out of town.
Yes, there it is.
And online at neurokinetics.com. And we're back with more right after this.
Canada's only weekly radio show dedicated to the baby boomer lifestyle. This is Boomer Life on CIL 650.